sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. This is a podcast made by two sisters, one of whom is me, comedian Virginia Jones, and the other of whom is Laura Ryan, who is a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to witty wisecracker Virginia Jones.
Well, thank you very much. My main credit is sister to thoughtful therapist Laura Ryan. Laura, on this show, we each take turns researching something and presenting it to the group for discussion. This week, it is your turn to be the knower of things and me to be the not knower. What is our topic this week?
This week is a listener topic. Dear Laura and Virginia, topic idea: the stuff that they don't tell you about healing journeys. The non-linearness of it all, the grief, what the work actually means, the self-sabotage, surprise diagnoses, feeling not how the tiki-taki says you will, the shrinking of your world and expansion of your selfhood, the inception point of no return, it's through or total destruction, the part of it where you start calling people effing C's, or other more practical but equally unexpected and messy strategies like go fail, go cry, go have a breakdown. Okay, those are just feelings. That's not a breakdown. Celebrate wins, get sad, or the big pause. I took a year avoiding doing real work because I was trying to survive my real life. Timing is everything and flexibility too. Thank you for this very special podcast. Sincerely, Samantha.
Well, thank you, Samantha. We think you're very special as well. Thank you for the topic. This is really interesting because you are right. Social media, TikTok, they glamorize your path to self-care and self-fulfillment and make it look like a switch will flip and then you'll be happy all the time and nothing bad will ever happen. Is that your experience, Laura?
As a therapist, this is what I notice a lot of people think that the healing journey looks like, that it's just this continual graduation from one level to the next. I think a lot of people also just think this about life. I'm going to get to my goal and then I'm going to keep building on that and I'm never going to fall backwards. And it's all just smooth sailing, as the kids say.
There's a flawed perception that a career is going to be just like that you start at the lower left and you travel constantly upward until you're up at the upper right. And that was my career. And I can tell you that comedy is not like that. I have seen that acting is not like that. We think of self-healing, our careers, love lives as being straight line up to the heavens. And really it's more going forward and doubling back and achieving something big and then having a valley. It's just what life is. My therapist called it a spiral. She and I were just talking about this. She said the path is sometimes like a spiral where you will be in the same situation that you were in a year ago, 5 years ago. You keep going in this loop, but you have more knowledge and you see it a different way. Your perception of it is different.
The way it was explained to me is it's like a spiral staircase. You're going up, you keep hitting your head in the same spot, but it's a little bit different each time and it's a little bit easier each time because you're developing skills. We think it's going to be like a piece of string going straight, but in fact, it's more like a tangled weaving knot of trash.
It's like a piece of string you've dropped on the floor. The loops in on itself and the knots that it's going to naturally make. If you're in a relationship, you might think, and I think a lot of unhappiness comes from this, you meet someone, you're at the bottom left, and you're just going to continually grow in your love and respect for one another and knowledge of one another. Your next step is marriage and buying a house together. And people have this idea that these are the steps you take on this prescribed path. And it's not like that. You could fall madly in love and then find out something about your partner that you did not know. And it's a setback, or go through something terrible together. To expect that everything in your life is going to just shoot up like a rocket is to find unhappiness. I think another thing that Samantha's email brings to mind is the idea that self-healing and being healed means you will always be happy. And that's a flawed viewpoint of it. Being self-confident, being content, having high self-esteem, regarding yourself well, making good choices doesn't mean every day is going to be like a trip to Disneyland, although that is personal hell for me, but that's what a lot of people think is happiness.
We have this tendency to think that life is black or white. I think with sobriety, for example, relapse is a part of sobriety, but how you handle the relapse makes a difference. Let's say I relapse today, I go on a bender, and then the next time I relapse, I buy one drink and then pour it out after 2 sips. Even though I'm still relapsing, I'm moving in a direction. We have a tendency to think either you're doing great or you're failing.
The first drink you take, it's all over. You're starting from zero. Nothing that you learned along the way is going to benefit you. And when I quit smoking several times. The first time that I started smoking again, I really felt badly about myself. But someone said to me, hardly anyone quits for good their first time. I started seeing it as a path to something.
When I think about my relationships, technically every relationship I've ever had has failed in the romantic world. But also, when I look at the trajectory of my relationships, I have gotten better at relationships in each one, and I have made better partnership choices in each relationship. I've built on that.
When I said the thing about Disneyland and how I don't like it, but other people think of it as the happiest place on earth because that's something that they wrote and promoted. It occurs to me that another way to say that you're having a good time is life's a beach and I hate the beach. Is this what's wrong with me? That everything that people think is good, I think is bad?
I think what's wrong with you is major depressive disorder.
It is hard to say when someone asks you how you're doing and you say great. And it might be a mixed bag. Yesterday, you might have had a really good day at work. You might have won $20 on a scratch card, but you also might have stubbed your toe. You might have done it in a public place where you had to let people know that it was great that you stubbed your toe and you weren't in terrible pain. Does that add up to a good day or add up to a bad day?
Difficult to say.
This is Healing, a Journey, Not a Destination by Lindsay Paulsen. According to Cambridge Dictionary, healing refers to the process of becoming or making someone well again, but also refers to the process in which a bad situation or painful emotion ends or improves. Many years ago, a rabbi taught me that we can't confuse seeking healing with seeking a cure. Sometimes we're able to cure. I help with healing by making a rough road smoother, or by helping someone find a new destination or goal, or a new path to an old destination. You can't think of it in the binary. You can think, I'm improving, I'm on my way to who I want to be. It's not that we flipped a switch and everything's better and I'm going to make great decisions all the time. I'm not going to make great decisions all the time because I am a person.
I was having a conversation recently with an ADHD client, and she was talking about how she couldn't do her laundry or she wasn't studying. And I said, you have to lean into acceptance at some point and realize that even if you're having your best possible day, you're still going to keep being you. And you, as a person who struggles with putting away laundry, I am also a person who struggles with putting away laundry.
And success for you is not necessarily going to mean you magically become a person who has it on the ball, who can get her chores done, but it means you're a person who is creating methods and tools to deal with these everyday things and that you're going to be able to cope. It doesn't mean you're going to be an A++ super achiever individual, but it means that you're going to find ways to work with what you've got.
I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be, which for me means buying lots of laundry baskets and hiding the clothes so that I can't see them. So, what does it mean when someone says healing isn't linear? Here's an article by Pivotal Counseling. There's this idea that this sort of recurrence of unhealthy habits sets the clock back to zero. Now, instead of valuing all the progress you've made before this instance, you might feel as though you're back to square one, but that isn't true. All of those instances of choosing healthy coping mechanisms or behaviors are not erased by one instance of turning to old familiar patterns. You still have the ability to do that again. You were just in an environment where you didn't have enough support to manage things in a healthy way. We develop strategies for dealing with life, and it's very hard to unwrite a strategy that I've been doing my whole life, even if it's one that's unhelpful. Because for whatever reason, I started doing it because it worked. And even though it's not working now, that doesn't mean it didn't work before. Maybe as a child, one of my coping strategies was eating ding dongs. And when I was 7 and I had a fast metabolism, it wasn't a problem. But now that I'm 27, it's a little bit more challenging. Some of my coping strategies have negative consequences. Everybody always says it takes 21 days to build or break a habit, and that's not true.
How long does it take for a new behavior to become a habit? It can take anywhere from 18 to 254 days
Yes, 254.
for a person to form a new habit and an average of 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. I don't think there's anything that I would try for 254 days. If it's not coming naturally to me, or if it's not becoming easier for me to automatically do at, let's say, 100 days, I give up.
I've been working on my compulsion with sweets for way more than 254 days, and I've made progress, but I still screw up sometimes.
There's no one size fits all figure, which is why this time frame is so broad. Some habits are easier to form than others, and some people may find it easier to develop new behaviors. This is the phrase that applies through this whole topic. There's no right or wrong timeline. The only timeline that matters is the one that works best for you.
As our listener was saying, maybe at different times in her life when she was trying to work on changes, she didn't have the available time or energy because her life was too hard. And I think people don't cut themselves any slack for that either. I was talking with a client in the past and she just lost her mother and she was having all these struggles at work and she was trying to figure out if she needed to stay at this job. And I said, let's just try to live and not make big changes right now because this is a really tough time for you.
Let me ask you about something specific that Samantha asked you about what the work actually means. People talk about, I'm working on myself, I'm doing the work. My boyfriend in high school used to say this. What he meant was he was going to go be glum by himself for a weekend and then come back and do the exact same weird behaviors he was doing before.
I'm going to say that that is not the work. Message to your ex-boyfriend who will never listen to this podcast.
He can't listen to it because he doesn't know how.
I guess he's never heard of an Alexa or anything like that.
Mother said she couldn't listen to our podcast anymore because her headphones weren't charged.
That makes sense to me. And I said, hey, you have a Hey Google device in your house. All you have to say is play the latest episode of my sister's therapist podcast. That's also a shout out to anyone who's listening. P.S. If you like this show, please follow us and also tell anyone you've ever met in your life that you like this show.
And write us a good review because it helps us on the algorithm. What does the work actually look like? What are the concrete things we can talk about when you're doing, quote, the work?
To me, the work just means paying attention to the places in life where you're not meeting your own expectations and trying to do better. Here's an example. Let's say that I have a difficult relationship with a family member, and every time I talk with them, we end up in a screaming fight. In that case, the work for me would be learning how to either end the conversation earlier, manage my own emotions better, or do something completely different to change the dynamic in that relationship.
I was talking with someone who is having a challenge. She is friends with someone at work and she likes having a friendly relationship with someone at work. But when they leave the office and do stuff together, the person is just in their ear about how terrible everything is and how complain. And how do I navigate these two things? I basically told her to gray rocket.
Right. I would either gray rocket or just stop hanging out with that person outside of work. That's human nature, right? We want to complain. We like that. It's one of the ways that we bond. I remember reading in Psychology Today once that people bond much more about things that they mutually dislike than things that they actually like. I had a very negative partner in the past, and we had an agreement that you can complain for 5 minutes and then we got to stop.
That's reasonable. When I used to teach a fitness class, I would find that if it had been a really hard class, people would hang out together, I perceived longer. Hang out at the water cooler. Wow, that was really rough. It became like infantrymen, people in the trenches in World War II. I really put them through it in a cardio boxing class.
I think being in the trenches is very similar to being on a treadmill. Progress isn't linear. The myth of the straight line. Progress is a meandering journey with twists, turns, and even occasional steps backward. There will be periods of rapid growth, followed by plateaus or even setbacks. This non-linear nature of progress can be frustrating and discouraging, especially when we compare ourselves to the seemingly linear journeys portrayed on social media or in fictional narratives. I think that's another piece. We're pulling in fiction. Social media to me is fiction. This is why I like TikTok so much because the creators on there really share that they are not doing well. There's this guy, Landon Reed, who I follow. He's a little Texan boy who made the big journey to LA, and he's finding that living in LA is actually quite difficult.
Pretty hard.
He found a rent controlled apartment, but he thought he was going to be further along than he is right now. And I think that it's because of fiction, whether it's fiction that people are promoting about their own lives or whether it's written in a fictional novel or a movie, we don't have honest guidelines about life. I think that's part of the American problem. We have a tendency to just lie and pretend that things are good when they're not.
I think that it's motivated by different things. I think Americans, when you ask how you're doing, they'll say, oh, I'm great, because they want you to think they're doing great. When a British person asks, "How are you doing?" you say, "Oh, I'm fine," because you don't want to trouble them with all the ways in which you're not fine.
Well, I remember I took a Teach English as a Foreign Language course, and everybody in my course was English except the people that were American. And I remember saying, "Why do you guys constantly talk about the weather? That is so boring." And they said, "Well, all you ever talk about is your jobs." Okay, that's boring too. It's difficult to really truly be honest with most people because when they say, "How are you?" what they want you to say is, "I'm great."
And then you can say, "You're great." And we look into each other's eyes and know how great we're both doing.
They don't want you to say, "Well, my cat just died," because then that's going to take them on a path that they weren't planning for this morning. They only had 20 seconds to chat.
That's going to stop me in the hallway for a good amount of time.
When it comes to making changes from the same article, there will be periods of rapid advancement followed by plateaus where progress seems to stall and even setbacks that require adapting and regrouping. I was talking with a fellow self employed person recently in my office, and we were talking about how it's so funny. When I think about where I am now compared to where I was before, I'm basically in the same spot in some ways. As far as business, there will be months where I've made more money than I've ever made in my life. As of right now, I didn't make any money for 2 months. And that's been really difficult because of unforeseen things. The way the economy works really affects my life. I remember making it through 2008 and thinking, okay, I got through it. I made it. I survived. I'm never going to have to do this again. And that's not true. It's exactly the same now.
People who are in a service industry, which you are in a very high end, important service industry, but it's a service industry nonetheless. When other people start getting broke, the first thing they look around for is what's extra. We do think of self care as something we can cut. And unfortunately, therapy is on that list.
And luckily for me, this time around, I have a lot of long term clients. So that's the way that my business has changed. I have a lot of people who keep re upping when their appointments come to an end. That's how I have kept from being completely in the poorhouse.
This is about setbacks. Setbacks reveal your weakness, expose areas requiring further development, and allow you to refine your approach. By embracing these setbacks as stepping stones, you can emerge stronger, more resilient, and equipped to handle future challenges. If we come at it from a science perspective, everything you're doing to try to change your behavior is an experiment. A failure in an experiment just means you need to figure out another thing. You need to improve the thing you're doing.
And also looking at all the other variables. If we're using my business as the example, I'm still doing everything I've always done. I'm the same therapist this week as I was last week, but this week I'm making $0. And that's because of an independent variable that doesn't have anything to do with me. All I can do is look at how can I refine my strategies and try to do something else to change things for me.
I was having a short conversation with someone I met on TikTok who is a person who said, I've always wanted to try comedy. And so they started doing comedy. One of my primary goals in comedy, I'll be there in another year. And I said, oh, wow, what's that? And he said, not to quit after 5 years, because apparently 5 years is a big breaking point where people just quit. That's really smart to make goals that are entirely within your control.
When I'm working with people who want to work on a healthy lifestyle, they're always bringing in the number on the scale as their hashtag goal. What I always say is, I could cut your leg off and you probably lose 70 pounds.
Tony Robbins said the same thing.
Oh, really? Maybe I took it from him. I could cut your leg off. Do you want me to do that? No. What you want is to be fitter and more healthy. What are the things that you can do right now that are going to get you towards that? Because the scale is not going to have anything to do with you. Your body has weight fluctuations and water and all these other things that have nothing to do with what you are responsible for.
Your pockets could be full of rocks.
That happens a lot. I was once taken to a play called Pockets Full of Stones with my sister. She didn't know what it was about. I didn't either. It was an Irish play about a man committing suicide.
Yep.
Pocket full of stones. Don't go see it. From the same article, there will be periods of exponential learning and development where you experience significant leaps in skill, knowledge, and understanding, but they will also be followed by plateaus. You might have these running at the wall, doing great, doing stuff, movement, but then you're going to have a setback because that is part of the life experience.
To bring it back to comedy again, because I haven't talked about that for a couple seconds. When people start, I tell them, I'm so excited for you. And I'm so jealous because the first 2, 3 years in comedy is an amazing learning experience. You're learning something every time you go on stage. It's so inspiring and you become addicted to it, which is good because that's the only way you're going to be good at it. I have improved a lot and I continue to improve. I don't think I've gotten any worse, but I will be on plateaus for a long time. I know what I'm doing. I know what to expect, but that period of intense learning and growth is the most fun. I think that's true of a lot of activities and hobbies and art forms. It's so invigorating when you start. And then when you start to get kind of good, this has been the same for a while.
It gets really boring. I just did a NET training. If you want to find out more about NET, refer back to our NET episode with Dr. Melissa Carrick, now in our top 10 episodes of all time.
Thanks, Dr. Missy.
I went back to an intro to NET training. As a certified NET practitioner, now my role is to go and teach newbies how to do NET. And I was kind of jealous because they're so excited and I am not excited anymore. It makes me mad because I'm still screwing up in certain places. It's been 3 years.
Why am I not perfect at this?
Why am I still skipping the same step that I skipped in my final, but for some reason remember to go back and fix?
Once you've learned something wrong, it's very hard to relearn it. It's very hard to go back and say, no, that's where this goes.
Especially when you're in your office by yourself every week and the people that you're doing it with,
They don't know how to do it.
they don't know how to do it.
They
They're
think
not
you're
gonna-
doing great.
They're not going, hey, what about the part where you say, put that off to the side?
I do think that for both of us, being with people who are new in it is invigorating. I think this is why comics start teaching that and the fact that they don't want to get real jobs. You're constantly surrounding yourself with people who are excited and energetic, who have new ideas and new viewpoints, most of which are wrong. It's super fun and invigorating to be around.
What I also realized is that I really do love to teach. I think to myself as I look at this young mind that I'm forming, like putty in my hands, I'm asking myself, what did I need in my intro? How was I feeling? Because I remember what it was like. I remember
Overwhelming.
feeling, I felt like my brain was just soup and I was never going to learn these steps because there's 15 of them. To have that memorized, 15 steps, that's a lot of steps. When I'm working with someone, I'm just trying to think about what I needed. And what I needed was a firm hand to say, nope, now you say, put that off to the side.
I think you're doing the same thing as a mother. I remember what I needed at this age, and I'm going to try to offer it to my child. And in your case, a lot of times it's Lego.
What I learn as a mother is that I don't remember what I needed because it was so long ago.
Growth is a unique and personalized experience. Comparing your journey to someone else's, compare and despair. Am I right, everybody? Especially in the context of a linear timeline, can be misleading and discouraging. Remember, everyone learns and grows at their own pace, and your path will be unique to you. Growth isn't a race, and it certainly isn't a straight line. It's a continuous and dynamic process filled with its own unique rhythm and pace. By embracing the nonlinear nature of growth, you can navigate your journey with greater understanding, resilience, and a sense of fulfillment. That's nice.
It's nice because it's true.
Yeah, everything is a personal experience. Every part of life, yours is going to be different than everybody else's. The sooner we can figure that out and just embrace it, the happier we will be.
To me, the most important thing in your quote unquote healing journey or your own personal growth is about developing resilience. And that happens with having goals that are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. Here's some steps that we can use. Celebrate small wins. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a testament to your own effort and dedication. Embrace setbacks as learning opportunities. View challenges as opportunities to learn, adapt, and develop new strategies. Focus on the process, not just the outcome. Enjoy the learning and growth, not just the end goal. Maintain a growth mindset. Believe in your ability to learn and improve, even when faced with setbacks. And this is a great quote from Nelson Mandela that I'm going to try to tattoo on my face. It always seems impossible until it's done.
Are you going to get it tattooed backwards so you can read it in the mirror, or regular way so other people can read it off your forehead?
I think it would make more sense in my current job to have it tattooed so that others can read it. And also, fun fact about me, I can read backwards.
It's part of being left-handed, I think.
And I also learned this. I was listening to Katasaurus on TikTok. She is ADHD AF, and she's learning about what it takes to be an ADHD person, how to make her life better. And she was talking about this idea of enjoying the process, not the outcome, because I've noticed when I get to the end of whatever the hashtag goal was, I feel nothing. It's about the process. Getting this NET certificate was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And when I hung it up on my wall, I thought I was going to feel a certain way and I didn't feel anything.
Process reminds me of the first time I was in a yoga class and someone said, "This is part of my yoga practice." It was the first time I'd ever had the word practice put in that frame before. Oh, I'm not learning how to do anything or progressing towards mastery of something. I'm practicing it. Practice is another way of thinking of hobby or chore. I am journaling every day as part of my practice. It's not a thing that will eventually end. It will never end. And it's what I'm doing to have the best life I can.
And I remember when I was first starting out as a therapist, I had all of these ideas of this woman that I was going to become. I was going to be this wizened, mature woman. I was training a new person. And she said, "Okay, now talk to me the way that you would talk to a client." I said, "This is how I talk to clients. I'm very informal and inappropriate. And not all of them like that." I didn't think I was going to be this person, but I've always been this person. I could only be a slightly better version of that.
Right. I think that's a really big idea. You're going to become your version of whatever your goal is. You're not going to remake yourself into a whole different person.
We're not butterflies.
People talk about write what you know. And we were talking about how David Harbour is in a show where he's extremely insecure, heady, and is a bad partner. That comes from him.
Go with what you know, bro. He's in a new show where he's playing a man who's having an extramarital affair. Go with what you know.
Yeah, he's going to be good at it.
In the letter from Samantha, she says, go cry and get sad. And I think that's a part of personal growth that we really don't think about. We don't think about how growing also means being sad because we have to accept that there are certain things about ourselves or our lives that are unchangeable, that are just going to be the way that they are.
I think that's very important to recognize and talk about. I have a lot of sad stories I tell myself about my parents and my family of origin. For a long time, I thought that progress was pushing that stuff down and not thinking about it. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't tell other people about it because then they'll know that you're weird and your family's not good. Allowing yourself and making yourself almost be sad and sit in it. I'm thinking about this thing that's unpleasant to think about. This is the worst it's going to be. And how do I process it?
A lot of my goals involve other people, and I can't make other people be different from who they are. Sometimes it's the sadness of just accepting that this is all they're going to give me. And so no matter how much I grow, they're not going to grow with me.
As exciting as change and growth and healing are, there is sadness that goes along with these transitions. There is so much focus on the beauty of change and healing, which is positivity wash, that we sometimes forget that sadness fits in with all of it. We might be thrilled to shed layers of self-doubt, low self-esteem, and old patterns that no longer serve us. But sometimes we also have to shed some aspects of ourselves that feel comfortable or safe in order to move forward on the path that feels most right for us. And there's a sadness in letting go of your previous self. There's a sadness in saying goodbye to things that you thought were your identity.
There's a death there. And with death comes grief, grieving yourself, grieving the person you used to be.
When I first started therapy and came to reckoning with the idea that things that I thought were immutable inborn traits were just the result of trauma, that's hard.
It's just my trauma response, and it's actually not integral to who I am.
Samantha also said in her email, she was talking about shrinking your world. You don't realize it's going to be a part of your growth. And I resonated with that because you think when I'm the person who I want to be, everyone was going to like me. I'm going to have all these friends. I picture myself in this room full of people. And maybe really I'm picturing myself performing for a room full of people, which is also part of my problem. The fact is that when you really like yourself and you have boundaries, you're going to know fewer people, not more people.
You're going to lose a lot of people. What I've noticed in my growth journey, I was recently reintroduced to a friend from high school who I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And I realized, wow, he really hasn't grown one iota from where we were then. And I was a really immature person with a lot of problems when we were friends. I have matured past where he is, and I can't really relate to him anymore.
I have a new annoying trait, which is when I'm first meeting someone, and I'm very excited to meet other people, I always want to learn about them. Every person knows something that I don't know. I want to figure out what it is that they're an expert in or that they're passionate about. If I've talked to you for a few minutes and I determine that that is not there, I don't care anymore. I'm out of the conversation. I was talking to someone who is a friend of someone who I like a lot, and I talked to him for a few minutes and found that he was extremely boring, couldn't shut up about one topic that he was really interested in, subtly trying to one up me in various ways. I don't even care to argue with you. I don't care to continue a conversation with you. I just don't care. And that is growth.
To me, that is growth. I've noticed as I age that I have a lot less room for new people. I keep my arm out a lot when I'm getting to know people because in the past, my life was a revolving door. You seem nice enough. We like the same music. I had no criteria. And I don't do that anymore because it cost me a lot to do that.
Especially in relationships, my requirement for men used to be, do you like me? And that was the end of the requirement list. Or do you seem to like me? Recently, I've been dealing with the fact that a very important relationship of mine, I don't think that person liked me very much. I'm watching these TikToks of when you realize that he hates you. I'm like, oh, he hated me.
When I think about this particular man that you're talking about, I remember meeting him and thinking, wow, he really dislikes my sister. And I said something to you, and you said, oh, no, he's just kidding around.
Right.
No, he really hates everything about you.
That's taken till now for me to realize.
To quote the Hives, hate to say I told you so. So
Laura
how
loves to say, I told you so.
I don't love it. I just find myself doing it a lot because I'm so smart and great. One thing that Samantha also references in the email is the big pause. She said, I took a year avoiding doing real work because I was trying to survive my real life. So I found an article about pauses, how strategic pauses improve decisions in life transitions. The strategic pause is not about doing nothing. It's about choosing the right kind of thinking at the right time. In a culture that prizes speed, pausing can feel risky or indulgent, yet the most consequential decisions in life are rarely improved by haste.
I can definitely think of times in my life where I have taken a pause from something that I was pursuing. And here I'm thinking mostly of stuff I was learning. This happens in dance a lot. You can spend a weekend at a dance workshop and your brain gets full, just like yours was at your NET training. Leave it alone for a couple days and go back to it. You will find that a lot of things have fallen into place.
When it comes to taking pauses, I had to take a pause recently because I was doing too many things at one time. I was trying to get all my CEUs done. Our sister was coming here for a visit. I had a big birthday coming up and was going on a cruise. I had to do my taxes. It was a lot of stuff all culminating. And it turned out that I also needed to find a new office. I had to put the finding an office thing on hold and tell my current landlord, I'm not renewing the lease, but I do need 2 months to dedicate to this because I just don't have the space for it right now. That's what I did, and it worked out. From the same article, number one, name the decision clearly. Write it down in specific terms. Clarity reduces anxiety. Number two, set a time boundary. Decide how long you will pause weeks, months, not indefinitely. Number three, separate fear from true signals. Fear spikes with urgency, while signals are recurring thoughts that reemerge even after the fear subsides. Number four, experiment before committing. Use small trials such as visits, conversations, and short term roles to gather real data. This is especially important when deciding to relocate or get into a new career field. I was watching a show last night called Everything is Fine. One of the characters is a 17-year-old with autism, and she applies to get into Juilliard. Her caretaker says, you don't know how to live independently. Step one, before we commit to going to Juilliard, is we're going to go to New York and we're going to spend a week looking at the train system and figuring out how it works. Even though it seems like a minor step, her learning that is going to be a building block to her eventually going to Juilliard.
Yeah, I think those are very non-glamorous, but realistic approaches to achieving goals. It's not sexy to say, okay, I have my first day on the job on Monday, so I'm going to take the train on Saturday, make sure I know how to get there and make sure that I feel confident about it. It can help if self-growth and self-awareness and self-learning is made out of a little bunch of approachable chunks, we can all feel better about achieving.
And making big changes. I remember when I left my husband, I don't think I knew I was doing this at the time, but I went through all of my shoes and got rid of all the ones that I didn't want. I went through all my clothes and got rid of the stuff that I didn't need. And this was maybe 2, 3 weeks before I actually left him. Unconsciously, I was making decisions about cleaning up my space so that it didn't feel so overwhelming to think about packing all my stuff and moving out.
This is from an article called The Grief of Growth by Elizabeth Gillette, LCSW. This also requires moving through and processing life events that were deeply sad. And when we engage with them, we can be surprised by the depth of our grief. That's what I was saying before. So many of us hold these feelings because there wasn't any other way to move forward with them at that time in our life. So when we unpack them and examine them now, we see how long we've been stuffing our emotions. That can feel extremely painful and difficult. Loss is painful, but until we provide space for the transitions we experience, we prolong our pain by holding and gripping to aspects of our life that are no longer working. It's okay to feel the sadness, and let me remind you, it won't be here forever. Feeling is healing. I grieve my childhood. I feel bad for the little girl that had to deal with what we dealt with. I feel bad for you as a little girl. And grieving all of that is important. You don't want to live in it, but recognizing that sadness is part of the path that is going to take you to your very best, shiniest, newest, nicest self.
Referring back to Samantha's letter, go fail, go cry, go have a breakdown. Okay, those are just feelings. Sometimes people think when they get caught off guard and something is really, really upsetting, that means there's something wrong. But I do feel like feeling is healing. What I say to a lot of people who don't want to fully engage in this process, that the only way out is through. Like Elizabeth Gillette just said, sometimes when I'm working on something, I hit a bump and go, oh gosh, I didn't expect to find that there.
This is harder than I thought it was going to be.
This is so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And what it is it's really painful. And people like to avoid pain. But unfortunately, if you avoid pain, you're also avoiding growth. So, Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this incredible topic that Samantha has brought to the fore?
Thanks again, Samantha. The fact is that hardly anything is going to feel or taste or look exactly the way TikTok told you it was going to. Going to Japan and getting a milk bread sandwich is not going to be the best thing in the world forever and change your life for the better. It's just a sandwich. Self-healing is not fun and it's not easy and it's not for the weak. But when you start doing it, you're going to find that your life simplifies and improves in ways that you didn't think possible. The defense mechanisms and blind alleys and circuitous paths that you've built into your life to cope with it go away. You don't have to willfully avoid certain topics or people or situations because you can't handle it. You're going to be able to handle everything. You have to kill off your old self in the process. What do you think of this amazing topic, Laura?
Again, thank you, Samantha, for this very well written email that covers a lot of topics in one small bite. My message for Samantha is that growth is incredibly hard, and that's why a lot of people avoid doing it. But when you avoid doing it, you're also cutting yourself off at the knees to having a decent life. You're losing energy, you're losing your sense of self. I was listening to a TikTok today. This woman's opinion was that being in relationship with a man actually makes it really hard for women to grow and improve. As soon as a man enters the chat, as it were, we're starting to think about what he thinks and what he feels, and we're losing ourselves. I think a big part of this is learning how to find out, number one, who you actually are instead of all of those masks that you have developed over life. They all had a purpose and there was a reason for them, but finding out who you actually are is the best gift that you can have, and finding out what would make your life good based on reality. So, Virginia, if somebody doesn't want to do a self journey and instead just wants to sit in on a comedy show, how could they go about finding out more about you?
You can join the rest of the non-self-reflective people at my comedy shows. You can find a schedule at www.bedinia.com. I keep a full calendar there. I also do promotions on my Instagram, which is Bedinia. Come see a show. And if you found out about the show through this show, come and tell me. I've had people do the opposite, come up to me after a comedy show and say, I started listening to your podcast because you talked about it on stage. Let's just close the circle there. Laura, where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
They can find me at my professional website, lauraryan.org. They can also find me at my very unprofessional TikTok account. I am Laura Ryan. If they want to watch episodes of the show, they can do it on YouTube or they can do it at our website, mysistersatherapist.com. And if you're interested in being featured in an episode of our show, you can email us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you'd like to give us money to sell your product or idea, you can hire us at mysistersatherapist.com.
If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode, or if you've just enjoyed seeing me or talking to Laura, please write us a positive review at any of the places you listen to podcasts. We see them all and we love them all. Laura, do you have a review or email to read us this week?
Indeed, I do. This is an email from King of All Cosmos. Holy Chiquita bananas. I just got done listening to your latest podcast episode and I am absolutely swooning. Thank you, King of All Cosmos.
We swoon with you. And also, we swoon with the spiritual founder of this podcast, Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. As he said, we can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye-bye.